presentation will be delivered by someone I consider an achiever. In October 2021, Nigeria became the first country in Africa to introduce a digital currency with the launch of the eNaira. So our next conversation with eNaira. Our presenter is a seasoned professional with over 25 years of experience in the fields of information technology, finance, and telecommunications, and over 15 years in top leadership roles. She is certified in IT business management, information security, IT governance, IT architecture, and accounting. She is currently the Director of Information Technology at the Central Bank of Nigeria. She's spearheading the deployment of Africa's first central bank digital currency, the CBDC, that is the eNaira, which I said was unveiled in October 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, now let's make welcome Director of Information Technology at the Central Bank of Nigeria, Hajia Rakiyat Mohammed, for a fantastic presentation on the eNaira. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so kind of you. I have the misfortune of standing between you and your lunch. However, when I read Brett's book, Bank 4.0, I sent a copy to every director in Central Bank of Nigeria, and I said to them, read this book. Brett has done a much better job at explaining the future of banking than I could ever tell you. And some of them took it and put it in their suitcases. So when I saw him this morning, I took a picture of him, I sent to them. I said, I had told you to read this book, and we were going to send maybe copies to CEOs of banks. And here is Zenith Bank. They have brought Brett live in Lagos. See? All right, thank you, Brett. I think you have made my job a lot easier. You've spoken about most of the use cases that central bank digital currencies can be put to, and thanks to our speaker on blockchain, the Microsoft MD. This is one of my favorite pictures. So this guy is a cobbler. He sells a dozen or two pair of shoes, and you can see the QR code in front of him. He receives his payment in eNaira. He's already living in the future. So I titled this presentation, okay, so the marker is not working, the pointer is not working. And this is a household, the Balba household. They live in a remote village in Sokoto. And the recent MBS figure, no, I think it was World Bank, says Sokoto State, 91% of the people there live below the poverty line. This household is one of them. I will tell you more about them as we proceed. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is Chuzo's house in Onitsha. He sells his merchandise, he takes his cash, he puts it under his bed, and unfortunately, the house went up in flames, and he lost all the money. Let's go to the next slide. This picture depicts what we do when we're distributing cash to the banks or our branches. You need a retinue of security people. You need the vans, bulletproof vans, the amount of people who will count the money, the distance they have to travel from one end of Nigeria to another, the amount of money and human resources and other resources that are put into distribution of cash today can only be imagined. I don't even want to tell you the figure. Let's go to the next one. So, the outline of my presentation, we have already met some of the actors, not all of them. We will look at why eNaira came about, the design, the challenges, and some of the use cases, which I have said some of the speakers have already done the job for me. Let's go to the next slide, please. So what were the economic objectives that made Central Bank of Nigeria to be the first central bank in Africa and the second in the world to launch a central bank digital currency when most of the other central banks were still researching and doing pilot runs and so on and so forth? We saw the future. And you already know that Nigeria has the sixth most advanced retail payment system. This was according to a report from ACI. So if you look up that report, you will see why. So really, you can sit from home, your home, with high-tech banks such as Zenith and transfer money to anybody, almost anywhere. But we thought we should still introduce a central bank digital currency to support that ecosystem. And that advancement, no doubt, aided us and to fast-track the development of our own central bank digital currency. What of financial inclusion? We still have about 36 million Nigerians that have no access to any type of finance at all. In the world, there are about 1.7 billion people. And NIMSI, with their current drive to get everybody to have a national identity, they have almost 90 million NINs issued to date. And about 20 million of them don't have BVNs. So even if we don't count all the others, we still have 20 million people who have come forward. They need identity. And it's an area where we need to drive finance. And then, of course, I have spoken about the reduction in cash. And when we bring in all these people, like that cobbler that you saw, he's now in the digital space. The tax people have visibility into his business. Central Bank of Nigeria, when they formulate their monetary policy, they have data that will give them more accurate figure. The same thing with MBS. When we calculate our GDP, people like him who are not included right now will be included, and will have better figure. And remember when the president launched eNaira, he did say in the next 10 years, he expects eNaira and its associated technologies to increase our GDP by $20 billion. We're working on that. And then, of course, there is the issue of disbursement of welfare to citizens. We will talk a little bit more about that when we talk about other use cases. And then cross-border payments. We know now in sub-Saharan Africa, according to a World Bank study, it costs an average person 5 to 7% to remit money to their relatives, their husbands, and other people to Nigeria or other sub-Saharan African countries. And then we have the cross-border trade, of course, where you don't get settlement until after 2 or 3 days. So let's go to the next slide. So we thought about this, and we thought those were enough reasons for us to have a currency that is legal, that is a legal tender that will be able to play in the digital economic space. So very briefly, we went through the Project Giant. That was a project that gave birth to eNaira. We looked at governance, operations, regulations, technology, and how to drive adoption. And the result of that was we had the eNaira, and we said it will exchange 1 naira to 1 eNaira, so parity, because we want it to be like cash on one hand, while it plays in the digital space. So it has all the characteristics, or most of them, of cash, and also tries to give you the benefit of having an electronic money. So the combination of those two is what makes eNaira unique. And then right from the word go, the target was for both the banked and unbanked. And I'll explain that. But we know when the whole world, one of the biggest risks that was usually identified was about disintermediation. I think after 1 year of operation, the world has seen that story about disintermediation. Maybe it's a bit overblown. But having said that, we have seen that our banks, who have been our stakeholders, have understood that we can work together and they can have more use cases that can generate more revenue for them, even if they may lose in other areas. And Zenith Bank has been at the forefront of the partnership with CBN to drive eNaira adoption and see how we can advance this noble cause. There's, of course, about safety, reliability, because it's a real-time payment. There's no settlement because it's peer-to-peer. So credit risk and all those other risks that are associated with traditional payments are almost eliminated. Let's go to the next one, please. So this is a high-level architecture of the ecosystem. At the right-hand corner, we have the unbanked. That's a big constituent of ours, and they are the ones we want to bring into the digital ecosystem. We have the platform itself that runs the CBDC, and then we have what we call the middle layer, our Bifrost. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, but that's the bridge that talks to our ledger, and we connect, we give open APIs to almost all our stakeholders who have come up with some innovative ideas, and then we have the telcos, other financial institutions. The banks are big in terms of connectivity, so we connect them directly to the ledger, and then we have fintechs. Let's go to the next one. All right, I spoke about this intermediation risk. We don't want people to move all their money to eNaira. So we have adopted the same tier structure that exists in the banks. And we have tier 0 to tier 3. If you start from tier 0, if you have a telephone number that has not yet been attached to your name, but is awaiting verification, you can still open an eNaira wallet. However, you can only do a transaction of 500 per day. And then you can keep a balance of 20,000 at any point in time. And that, it goes on like that. The other ones are, okay, so I'm running out of time. Let's go to the next slide. This is where I really wanted to talk to. So when we created the CBDC, you know, as typical with any digital product, you will require a smartphone to be able to download a wallet. And that's a real stumbling block. In Nigeria, we have 20 to 30% of people, of our adult population, really with smartphones. The rest of them don't have. So we came up with this project to make eNaira available through USSD, like your 996, so we have 997. I don't know whether it was planned, but we're right behind you. And then we integrated with the Nigerian instant payment. I think it's the first CBDC that has connected to a national payment system. So Nigerians have the best of both worlds. They can transfer their money seamlessly from their fiat to eNaira and vice versa at any point in time. And then we now have Verve that have completed their integration. So on your Verve card, you can be able to go to a POS or any ATM and withdraw eNaira as well. That's going to go live very soon. For diaspora, we have worked with IMTOs. They have integrated with eNaira. The only sticky point, who knows? The exchange rate. So as soon as we solve that problem, people would be able to send money directly to their eNaira account and vice versa. And of course, we have open APIs. So we are working with many fintech organizations and banks that have come forward to create innovative products that would give utility to the eNaira. And as we roll out, we will tell you more about them. Quickly go to that. So let me just quickly talk about the use cases. Brett has spoken extensively about programmability of money. So there is a use case we are working on now. Somebody came to us and said they have this problem. They want to give loan to people, and they want them to spend that money on particular items. So they want them to go to only shop A, B, or C to spend that money. And they want them to spend that money within a particular period of time. And eNaira is a perfect use case. We're almost done the integration, and for them, that is one of the most beautiful things that has ever happened to them, because they have not been able to track, to prevent people from spending, like now we give you a loan of 1 million naira. Zenith Bank gives you a loan of 100 million naira. You're supposed to buy seedlings with them. Instead, you go to the village and throw a party. And there's no way Zenith will know. But with eNaira, we can actually make sure you use that 1 million naira to buy seedlings. That's programmable money. Payment, we program. So say, for example, Ziva, if she wakes up tomorrow and say, okay, MD Zenith Bank, you created me, But I think you have to start paying me something. Is Zenith Bank going to create an account for Ziva? They cannot. But Ziva can have an eNaira wallet where the MD will be forced to make payments. And when Ziva wants to give in charity, Ziva can now transfer this money to charity A, B, C, and D, a very simple use case for programmable money. Offline payments, I did promise I was going to tell you about that household in Sokoto. Right now, if government wants to pay out money, they do cash because these people have no electricity, they have no internet connectivity, they are not learned, they can't read, they can't do anything. So they have no option than for the federal government to transfer the money to the state, state to local government to the ward to the community, community to the household. About how many hubs? 6. And how are you sure that when you are transferring 1,000 naira will reach these people? There is no way. But with eNaira, we're working with one set of them now. We'll soon flag off a pilot where they can sit at the comfort of their offices in headquarters here in Abuja and actually be able to transfer this money to their wallet, and they will have a hardware wallet with a merchant ecosystem where they can spend the money. No human intervention, and they will get the money. And of course, by the time we integrate with other CBDCs, we would be able to reduce the cost of cross-border trade, remittances, and other things, because then you don't need a correspondence bank, I'm sorry to say, and so many other intermediaries, because it can happen peer-to-peer. But I do believe we have a lot of work to do together with the banks, and we have started with Zenith, I have mentioned before, and I must commend their very, very innovative MD and their chairman. I know we will reach places. Can you quickly go to the next one? And so in conclusion, I have spoken about economy, social, just the last bit about sustainability. If we think about the number of currencies that get mutilated, old, and we burn, and the amount of carbon dioxide that we release to the atmosphere, and we think about minting this currency, digitally, then we don't have to do that, and that will be our contribution towards ensuring sustainability and maybe providing solution to climate change. That's one of the things. So we ran a hackathon, just like Zenith is doing, and we had 4,911 people who expressed interest and showcased their project, and we're working with some of them some of them will soon go live with some of their projects, and we're nurturing them also to become the future unicorns in the field of digital currency. Can you go to the next one, please? So, this is a tech fair. What innovation are you bringing to the eNaira space? Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.